especially as young ladies put off marrying to take up masters, etc.?
Well, marriage is very important in life because it brings stability within the society. When married couples procreate and they have children, it strengthens the foundation of society. You'll find that married couples tend to be more moral. They're more conscious of their morality. Why? Because what is marriage in the simplest of terms? It's contractual. The simplest answer I can give you is any two people who get into any transaction and they obey a contractual agreement, we would call them civil servants. We would call them people who are law-abiding. Even two atheists, when they get married and they put it in writing, in law, that we are getting married and these are the rules and the state or the governance of the marriage law of this country will rule us, you're civil. There's civility there because you subjected yourself to a higher authority such that you start to become more morally conscious. In Islam, when couples get married, you see, when they get married, Allah says, وَأَنْكِحُوا الْأَيَامَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّالِحِينَ مِنْ عِبَادِكُمْ وَإِمَائِكُمْ إِنْ يَكُونُوا فُقَرَاءَ يُغْنِيهُمُ اللَّهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, marry the unmarried ones. The unmarried ones. Why? It brings stability. When children are born as a result of that, there is stability because the two did not have this accidentally. They had it in a planned way. The child now will receive the planned idea because it's not accidental. I've seen children who are hated by their parents, or who hate their parents, it's because the child was born accidentally. Now, accidentally here, I mean outside of marriage. In marriage, if it's accidental, it's still a blessing. But usually out of marriage, accidental children who are born usually are a burden on the two sides because neither side actually wanted the child. They wanted the pleasures of life and not the result. And the child becomes a recipient of pain and agitation. And then they have to survive because now the parents are not contractually in agreement, which means now the future of the child is in question, which is why many times you have these breakups and all kinds of problems. So marriage is one of the bedrocks of society. It's a universal principle, by the way. When I go and recite nikah, or even when I go to marriages of non-Muslim audiences, you'll see it's a universal message. And Islam recognizes universality. Islam recognizes Christian marriages as legitimate, Jewish marriages, atheist marriages as legitimate marriages. If it didn't, then they all become candidates of marriage, which is haram. So it's a universal message. It brings harmony. Now today, though, we raise our children in a very material way. We don't give them aqidah. We don't give them purpose of life. We don't show them greater purposes. We show them only temporal purposes. I've seen many parents who say to their daughters, don't do this. You need to be successful. And this is what your future is. You're going to find a rich boy and you're going to live in a nice house. And that's your goal. Instead of saying you're going to be a God-conscious person who's going to promote good and forbid evil. And you're going to be a great role model. And you're going to bring great children who are going to be, representatives of God in this world. No, we don't teach them that way. This is why I was giving the example of Luqman. Luqman, with wisdom, what is he doing? He's teaching his son, don't make partners to God. Ya bunayya la tushrik billah. Right? Ya bunayya aqim as-salah wa'mur bil ma'ruf wanha 'anil munkar wasbir 'ala ma asabak. Inna dhalika min 'azmi al-umur. Wa la tusa'ir khaddaka lin-nas wa la tamshi fil ardi mar'a. This is Luqman talking to his son, my son, uphold prayers, promote good, forbid evil, and be patient with the trials and tribulations of life. When parents teach children under these principles of aqeedah and teach them the principles of good moral upbringing, then the probability of marriages will survive. You see, success. We've got career-oriented sisters, which is not bad. It's good for women to be career-oriented. There's nothing wrong. They should be. But not at the contradiction level where if they're going to get married and going to have children, Allah has genetically and systematically set a pathway where women have an obligation. Just bearing a child for 9 months, they cannot work. It's not that easy. They can work for so many months. Eventually, they have to take leaves, right? And then they have to spend time with their children. They have to nurture the child. And these are obligations that are not man-made. These are natural obligations. Hence, the man is the breadwinner. That's why Allah says, الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. The man has authority on the woman. For what reason? On the provisions. He has to be the provider. It's an obligation. When a man provides his wife for money, he's not doing his wife any favor. It's an obligation. It's a command of God. But when a woman contributes within the family, she's doing it as a as a blessing. She doesn't have to. It's not obligatory on her. So Allah says these are the differences. Now, under those conditions, therefore, the woman is not obligated to go and earn money. It's the man's obligation. Now, if a woman wants to be career-oriented, I see women who are career-oriented, they want to have children, or they want to have children, but they want to have nannies raising them, or they want to have babysitters raising them. There's a contradiction there. Because children need that love and nurturing, and there's a balance within the family. Now, you and I can talk till we turn blue. We can be feminists all we want, or we can be these male chauvinists all we want. Both sides are wrong. The real answer is the balance. Let's be realistic here. I even talk about, Billie Jean King and Martina Navratilova. Martina Navratilova's biceps were probably bigger than most men's biceps. Okay, but she's a woman. But have you ever seen her play men's tennis? She can't. She'll be destroyed. Men's tennis is much faster than women's tennis, even as great as she is. They don't go, and they created their own women's tennis association, Why didn't they just join the men and say, listen, we are all, equalizers of society. Let's all just be men and women. There should be no distinction between us. It doesn't work that way. You can go to the most, liberal societies. You'll find men's room is separate from women's room. Right? Why is it separate? Well, because there's something natural about it. It's just you can't break it. So let's not violate that. But the fact that a woman wants to pursue a career is nothing wrong, but not at the cost of shattering the family. So there are those who are very career-oriented who don't get married, and that's fine. That's a choice. Because marriage is not an obligation. Unless you're going to commit a haram act, it becomes obligatory. Otherwise, it's mustahab.
Thank you.